This is Israeli Technology Founders Speak, a podcast of conversations with successful Israeli high-tech and biotech entrepreneurs. With your host, Avraham Hermon. Nimrod Kor is the co-founder and CTO of Baz, an AI code agent that helps teams ship better software faster by automating code reviews, making software development smoother, faster, and more reliable. Avraham sat down with Nimrod to discuss how their technology works, how he came up with the idea, how he got funded, how he's marketing their product, tips for startup founders, and much more. This podcast is a creation of JMB Davis Ben David, an intellectual property law firm serving clients around the world. You have great innovations. We keep them safe. It's not enough to just have a great startup idea or innovation. If you don't legally protect your innovations, products, and brand, anyone can claim them as their own. We keep your great innovation secure. Learn more by going to jmbdavis.com. That's jmbdavis.com.
So thank you, Nimrod. I'm happy to be here in your offices in Tel Aviv. You're the CTO of Baz, and we're going to hear a little bit about what you guys do. So first of all, can you tell me what problem you guys solve?
Sure. When we started out Baz, we realized that there is a gap, and the gap is only widening between how fast software can be delivered and be built, especially the age of AI, where I can do front-end stuff all of a sudden versus the tooling, the Git and the GitHubs of the world, like GitLab, Bitbucket, all of those names. They give you something which is very generic, but it also very simple. And you have in every company at least a team to do the GitOps, to do all the glue that makes the application go to production. Mm-hmm. And we realized that if we have something that can do this by itself, because it understands languages, because it's an LLM based, suddenly teams can deliver faster and it will be a lot simpler to build in the new world.
So let's just talk a little bit about the new world. Just expand on that. What's different today than, let's say, 5-10 years ago?
So let me explain from my own experience. The previous company I worked at called Bridgecrew, we built a cloud security for developers tool. There's an open source Chekhov which blew up, and it is all based on AST. What is AST? Abstract Syntax Tree. That means that you take the file and you parse it into the building blocks of the code. So there's a program. Inside the program, there might be classes and functions. And inside the function, you have the function signature and the function body or whatever it is. So it's a different modeling of the same things that we have today in our software. But then once we leverage that, you could ask questions about stuff like, does my S3 bucket have encryption key? That's what we used to be able to ask. And when we opened Baz approximately 2 years ago, it was right about when we were writing each other birthday cards in ChatGPT, which were funny and little haikus. And what we realized is this is the first time that we have a tool that can understand the semantics, the meaning of the code that I find. Because with ASCs, we always had the problem that we only got as far as identifying specific values. I know what true is, I know what two is, but if something has a description, I don't know to evaluate whether it's good or bad. And that's something I can do now with LLMs. So we realized that if we take what we already know how to build, which is the AST, and integrate it with LLMs or make it more holistic with LLMs, we can actually...
LLMs are language learning models?
Yes, the large language models. Those are the models that you can send them text and they reply, like ChatGPT. So they actually understand the semantics, and that allows us to bridge a gap that we had it with our previous tool, which was great for security, but it wasn't good enough for developers.
So you're aiming towards developers and you're making their lives easier now.
Yes, development teams, especially the indie developer today with platforms like Lovable and Base44 can build basically on his own whatever he wants.
Okay, so how do you sell your product?
How do we sell our product? We talked about the vision. When we talk about what we have today, Baz today does AI code review. That means that when you're working in a team, a common practice is to do code reviews to your peers to make sure that the code is up to standards and have a second look at it to make sure you're not introducing any bugs, stuff like that. And the problem there is that you need, as the reviewer, a lot of context which only the developer who wrote the code has. And it's always a hard task for developers because you have your own tasks and you might be hungry for lunch and you might have 3 different reviews waiting on you. And the problem here is that each review takes the span of your context, which means it's very hard to do 3 reviews and your task. And what we realized is AI comes without this limitation. It has as many contexts as I want. I need to pre-fill it, which is the hard part of what I think makes Baz the best tool in the category.
And when you say pre-fill, is like teaching it?
So we don't train the model, but we do a lot of context engineering. So when the LLM actually gets to the task of reviewing, it already knows which repository it is working on, what kind of code base is it? Is it a web app? Is it an Android application? Maybe it's a backend scroller that crawls through sites. And the review is different for each one of them because I would want to enforce different things on each one of them. And that's part of the context that we built to help out with the context switches. So as a developer today, I can just install it on my GitHub organization. I would start getting automatic reviews from AI within minutes instead of within hours, which is what I would expect from my peers. And that means that when my peer comes to review my code, he would have a lot less to ask. He would understand better what he's looking at, and the code would be at a much better state.
So what is, from your experience, how is the accuracy of your AI model? In other words, I was just having this conversation yesterday about people querying AI and getting all sorts of strange results. And obviously, you can't start introducing mistakes into code, and that would counteract the whole process.
We have a very funny story from the beginning. We built out the reviewer, and then we started using it, and then we made a change which essentially caused the reviewer to accept an empty diff. So I asked it to review code, and then I didn't provide the code to review. And we actually got results, and they were completely made up about a made-up pull request. It was Python when we were building in TypeScript, and we were looking at the results, and it took us like 30 minutes to realize that the bug was that it was just hallucinating everything. So you're right, that is a major obstacle. What we see is we do 2 things. One is we validated the response against deterministic stuff. So we asked the LLM to respond in a specific structure. First of all, list all of the file names. Then we take the file names and we verify that they are real. And if they're not real, we can either discard them or discard the entire request. We know he was hallucinating. That's one thing. The second thing, and I think it gets a lot better as the models get better, is we can provide more context and it remembers the entire context. So it might be 256,000 tokens, it might be 1 million tokens, depending on the model and the provider. But the models use the context better than they did 2 years ago.
Okay. So can you tell me about how the idea was born? You had mentioned your experience in a different company, working on something similar.
Building Baz was my dream. I think it's also Guy's dream, but I'm talking first person here.
Talk about your partner, Guy.
Sure. Guy and I met up in the army 17 years ago. He was my first commander. We both served in 8200, but in the non-technical side of 8200.
For our listeners, 8200 is?
The Israeli NIS. Okay. That would be accurate. So after the army, we split up. I went to study computer sciences and started becoming a programmer. He studied history and became a product manager. I don't know, maybe that's related somehow. And we kept in touch. He opened a company 6 years ago called Bridge Crew, called me up. I decided to join against my initial judgment because I didn't want to work on cloud security, but it was a great journey. And we had so much fun working together that we decided to open Baz. He's also a minute celebrity, but we can leave that off.
So now that you gave us that teaser.
Yes. So his family name should reveal quite a lot. Guy Eisenkot is the son of Gadi Eisenkot.
I got it. Okay. So we'll get to discuss the war and security.
Sure. We have lots of security discussions in the company.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the idea.
Yeah.
So when we were building Bridge Crew, we helped developers make less mistakes. That was the idea. That was the selling point. The buyer was the CISO. But the problem the CISO had was developers were making mistakes all the time. And he finds out 3 months or 6 months later when it's in production and now changing something is very hard.
I see.
So we told him, pay us. We will give the developers the tools they need to make less mistakes. And this was the first time I worked on something within the SDLC, the software development lifecycle, where we actually help developers in their IDE or when they're doing code review or when they're deploying in different parts of how you build software. And just tingled me that there are so many other broken things within the system that we can bridge with AST. But just with AST, that would be with points. And then approximately 2 years ago, we realized that it's at a point where AI can really help us bridge those gaps and build something much more powerful. And that's why we started Baz.
I see. So you guys are located, like I said, in Tel Aviv. What's the connection between AI companies in Israel? Talk a little bit about AI in Israel and why you're here.
AI is everywhere. It's the hype of the world. I think that Israel in this regard is starting to catch up, but it is still slightly behind the rest of the world, especially the US. But we also see great stuff like Mistral AI from France and other companies. And I think the hardest part for Israel would be to become a data center like they're building out maybe in Saudi Arabia, or they're building out in many places in the US. But I think the utilization of AI is a place where Israeli minds or the Israeli genius can really come out, because there's a lot of hacking, there's a lot of circuit shorteners that can make the LLM be better without actually running the infrastructure and the hardware and the power lines and all of that stuff. And I think there are many AI applications like ours which can really leverage the fact that there is a data center somewhere, but we can build the best context, the best prompt, the best whatever, to utilize it in the best way.
I see. Interesting. So essentially, a lot of the mind behind the AI can be coming out of Israel, but not necessarily the infrastructure.
Yes.
So what's your experience regarding developers and using an AI tool like yours, like Baz? Are developers hesitant to use that? And we touched a little bit about potential problems that can come up. So is that an issue?
Definitely is. I'll come out and say that I was skeptic at the beginning. I was very afraid of letting the AI ruin everything. And we still see some skepticism today. I spoke with a CTO I know, and we know from back when I was a software developer and he was something else. And I told him, listen, I'm building an AI code reviewer. Let's maybe just try us out. I'm the CTO. I'll get you a good deal, maybe some time for free. Try us out and tell me what you think. And he said, no, I don't want AI doing code review. That's something I want my developers to invest in. And I don't want AI to, I would say, make the conversation flatter or dumber, because people just don't invest anymore because AI does the work. So there's a lot of skepticism around it. I think what worked for me is just to seeing the magic happen. We're using it ourselves. So the first customer of Baz is Baz. And once every 2, 3, 4 pull requests, I see a comment that I go, oh my God, I would not have caught that. And I have many examples. The latest example that I'm showing on every demo is one of our front-end developers created an empty state, which is an image you show when there is no data to show. And the ticket description said that we should show it in specific cases, but he implemented it that it is shown always. Now, if I would review the code, I would look at the component, it's good. I would look at the SVG resources, they're placed in the right place, they're SVG and not PNG and all that stuff. Technically, it's all right. It's just not up to the requirements. And I wasn't sharp enough to look at the ticket to actually see it shouldn't be shown always, but rather blah, 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 blah. And the AI caught it and commented on it within 5 minutes of the opened pull request. So when I came to see it, I was like, oh, wow, that's nice. And he implemented it, of course, without me needing to comment on it, read the ticket, blah, 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 blah. So there are many examples where the AI just tells me something. I write code as well. And Baz comments on my code. I'm like, he's right. Come on, I can do better. So it's just something, I think it points to the fact that there are different mindsets as a software developer. One is when you build things, you want it to work. And then the second thing is the reviewer or the planner. It's a different mindset. It will work somehow, but let's look at how it is supposed to look like. Because if you try to build an IKEA furniture, if I didn't have the manual of how to build it, I would just look at things and try to match them until it would look like a furniture. But then if I review it for a second, I said, okay, this goes there and that goes in here, and this is how they connect. And suddenly things will look better, not today, but in a month, in a year, when people will need to go and change that code to something else.
I see. Okay. So you're basically organizing the code in the programs and helping developers quality control and make their product just look better and work better.
Yes.
And saving time doing it.
Yes. All of the above.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your team. So I see there are a bunch of people here in the office.
Yes.
How did you assemble a team and to move the product forward? You're also here in Israel and you're also in the US. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So when we set out to build Baz, we had a few people on our mind to come work with us. It was a tough time. We started August 23. We raised some capital. August is a good time to spend some vacation and quality time with your kids. We came back. September was holidays. And then the war hit us. So things started off a little bit slowly. We had people that wanted to come, but they were either in reserves or they weren't ready to really make a move now that everything is shaking. And I think it's important to say this has been a very emotional almost 2 years where people really think about whether they should be doing a career change or just sticking to something that they know and it works for them. And the family comes into the conversation, everything like that. But we were exciting enough for people to actually come over. We hired, I think the first 4 or 5 hires were people that we know, people that worked with us either in our current company or previous companies or maybe even before that. But then hiring is not easy. It's not easy at all. I would say that some of it through hiring agencies, but the best hires come from via friends. So
I see.
We have an employee and he knows someone that's looking for a job, and that's how we get them.
Sounds good. Let's talk a little bit about your IP strategy. You have patents. Are you planning on getting patents? Do you have any other types of IP, and what role does that play in your business strategy?
Both Guy and I have different patents in our background. Guy has around machine learning, the old one, not the AI one, where you actually grab a vector and get a numerical number based on some kind of statistics. I have one on AST-based dynamic remediation of code. But what we realize is that in this AI world, things are moving so fast, and taking out a patent takes like maybe 2 years or a year and a half or maybe even more. So we decided to just go ahead and build stuff. We do write a lot of write-ups on the technology that we build out. It's not too much into the details because we do want to keep our investors, our competitors at arm's length. But you have to build in the open today when you build with AI, because everybody has access to ChatGPT 4.5 or 4.1. Everybody can write plain English. So the moat here is a lot, I guess it's smaller than it used to be.
Interesting. Okay. Let's talk about what type of collaborations you have in terms of in the industry, and how do you form these collaborations?
So I think the easiest collaboration to form is with your cloud provider. That's where most of our cost is anyway. And we use AWS. I love AWS, but GCP and Azure, you can use them too. I just haven't had any experience in my background. But the partnership is not just that we pay them. We also talk to them and they give us opportunities to talk with their other customers, or they even intro us to other customers. That's one thing. The second thing is a lot of conferences. We believe in it. I believe in it. I think open source strategy like we had in Bridge Crew, and we also open source something here at Baz. It's called Awesome Reviewers, and we can talk about that. But it allows you to leverage conferences and talking opportunities to really show everybody what you're working on. So we were just in June in AI.engineer conference in San Francisco, where we met approximately 3,000 AI heavy engineers. So it's either the AI architect or the AI innovation lead in whichever company it is. And 2 weeks ago, we were in Berlin and we are developers. We met like 15,000, mainly European engineers, which are very different from Israeli and American engineers with regards to the tool they use and how they approach privacy and stuff. So it was interesting. But you just have an opportunity to meet, all in all, it's almost 20,000 people who work at this profession, who are relevant, who were interested in the product in some way or another. Maybe they don't like AI, maybe they like AI, but you're now in their brain. And it's just much more effective than, for me, all of the ads you can post on Facebook or Twitter. And it's a partnership because we obviously, when we go to a conference, you pay for a booth or something like that, but you also get a speaking position, and maybe let's talk about next year. And there's lots of back and forth between them. I'm actually recording an episode about the conference tomorrow with one of the DevRels of the conference. So there's lots of back and forth on that.
I see. So you're on the podcast route now.
I'm doing a podcast trip, yeah.
Okay, good. So let's talk a little bit about investment. Where's your investment from, and is it difficult in general to get investment in the field of AI in Israel?
We were lucky to be invested by 2 very big American-based VCs. The first one is Battery Ventures. Battery Ventures also invested in Guy's previous company, which I was an employee in, Bridge Crew. So we had the contacts and it was easy to get a meeting. But we raised $8 million. So that's a lot of money. So half was Battery and another half was from Bold Start Ventures. They are the seed investors in companies like Sneak. Also very dev focused, very positive, and looking for investments. Everybody's looking at investments in the field of AI. So those are two really great VCs. There are others. There's more angel investors and smaller things like Vermilion Capital, which also invested in us. But those two, Boltzart and Battery, are the two big investors.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's looking to invest in AI. The biggest problem with AI is explaining how you differ from your competition. And it's crazy because when we started out with code review 2 years ago, we were like, nobody does code review. We went through our competition. Nobody does code review. We had one competitor who shifted into code review approximately December 23. We were like, this is a gap. This is a greenfield. We can run on this. Today, I think there are approximately 12 companies doing AI code review, including us.
Wow.
Some of them are real companies, bigger than us, with capital, more customers, more everything. But others are person working out of his basement, does not have any funding, and it works. And I think that's part of the magic that AI gave us. It allows people to just build the stuff that they want and expose it and maybe even make money off of it. The question is quality, and I think that's a very big issue because we talked about the quality problems of AI.
Yeah.
And if I build something that I like, it might work once or twice or even 5 times out of 10, and I will be all right with it, but no one else will be.
Right.
The problem for products like us is now that I have 12 other products to do the same, I need to explain why my product is better than this guy's garage-based code reviewer, which is also a lot cheaper than mine.
Sure.
So suddenly there's a lot of noise and you need to work on a differentiation a lot.
So you have to learn what your competitors are doing. Spend time on that as well.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. But I guess the fact that you have competition is encouraging.
It is, because it shows you that there is a real gap here and people care about it and people are willing to invest their time, which is equal to their money on it.
Sure.
The point is, how do you come out on top? How do people test you out and enjoy it? And from our experience, that's what usually happens. People who tried other code review tools, try Baz and stick with it.
Okay. What sort of tips do you have for startup founders that are just getting into the field or interested in getting into the field?
I'm talking about the AI-based field, right?
Sure.
Not general software engineering.
That's where your experience is, so that's most important.
I would say that the first thing, if you think that something can work, POC it. There's lots of libraries, frameworks, packages to just try stuff out. Maybe you can even use a nice UI like Base 44s or Lovable to see if it makes sense. The biggest problem with LLM when you try to build a production grade product is consistency. And for consistency, you would need to do 2 things. One is to engineer your prompt, and you would be surprised how much details the prompt needs. The funniest example we had is the LLM has a knowledge cutoff. That means it learned all of the internet up until, May 2024. And anything beyond May 2024, it is not aware of. And you need one of the best practices by Anthropic, which is one of the maybe 2 or 3 biggest AI LLM providers, is specify the date in the prompt. Let it know that it is not all-knowing and that there are things that have changed since the knowledge cutoff and until today. It actually removed a lot of the noise that we had because suddenly the LLM says, okay, maybe this version is outdated or exists and I just don't know about it because the date has changed. So that's prompt engineering. But then the second thing is context engineering. I think that's where the moat or that makes or breaks the company, because everybody can build a great prompt. And as the LLMs get better, whether it's ChatGPT or the others, they can fill in the blank. They know how to search the web. They know how to do deep research. They know how to write code and execute it. So the biggest problem here, and I think that's what makes us as people smarter than LLMs, is we have years of, we call it learning, knowledge, but it's essentially context. Right? When I open a newspaper and I read something, it's not the first time I read an article in a newspaper. I have a lot of baggage on how newspapers write their editorials. And I read something about, a government somewhere in the world, and I have a lot of feelings towards that country. I have a lot of feelings towards that government. Maybe it's a right wing, maybe it's a left wing. It comes with a lot of baggage that the LLM does not have.
Right.
So building the right context to give it something similar to what we have is the hard part, and I think it's the rewarding part, because that's what makes the difference between a really good product and a mediocre product.
Okay, interesting. Where do you see your company in about a year or in about 5 years down the road?
So a year from now, I think I would want to see us crack the code review problem. That means that it's not a question of whether I need an AI code review tool. It's a question of how much I'm willing to pay for a code review tool. And Baz will hopefully be the market leader, but that's for us to work on. where we are in 5 years. I think in 5 years, software development as a profession will change. People used to review punch cards or assembly or very low level, move this value from this register to that register or save it somewhere. And now people review Java and Python and higher abstractions of the same code. Why? Because it's easier to read and it's a lot faster and it runs through all the tiny details that you don't need to really care about in assembly. And I think that this process will continue where code review will focus on higher level stuff. Let's say I made a change. I can summarize it and then someone can review the summary. And maybe the summary is like a page long, but the only really important piece of code that I want to review is a specific paragraph. So I can ask to see that specific paragraph. Or maybe I can ask questions to extend that paragraph so that my review is more interactive and not just here is the entire change within the document and read every line that changed, what was before, what was after, and conclude by yourself what has changed, which is today's process. What I would want, where I would want Baz to be in 5 years is building on that. I think people who use today Git, which is the great majority of software development teams, I think they won't be able to use just Git. They will have to use Git plus Baz or something of that class to fill in the gap that we have today, where I need to build CI and I need to build an Artifactory and I need to do code review in the actual diff and not on something which is more abstract. Baz would need to be in all those places to make it easier for people to just build something and ship it to production.
Okay, sounds like an impressive vision. Thank you very much for taking the time and sitting with me and explaining to me what Baz does. I appreciate it, and wishing you and your company lots of success.
Thank you very much.
That was Nimrod Kor, the co-founder and CEO of Baz. We hope you enjoyed this episode. There are many more to come. Do you have a great innovation or startup idea? We'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to us by going to our website, jmbdavis.com. And if you go to jmbdavis.com/startup, you'll see we have a special site specifically made for startups to help startups protect their innovations. Please be in touch with us and find out how we can help you. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to bringing you the next episode.